Good morning again, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, the usual disclaimers. And once again, thankfully, I have managed to avoid to look at the Twitter TL in between videos. Thank God, right? So this time we're going to go straight into the description box and then back into Dr. Matthews Israel's fucking stupid, okay? In the description box, you're going to find the link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by Autistics for Autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's quote-unquote behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much, they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Excuse me. NeuroClastic has refused. So, folks, you know the drill. Please read that article and don't forget to share it on all your social media. We also have NeuroClastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding in case the JRC actually has the balls to see through with their threat. We have the pertinent links to the Agape boarding school situation as well. Agape boarding school is a Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has and pending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it. All these claims have been substantiated thus far by the Missouri Department of Social Services with hard evidence, and they include the following: sexual assault, rape, sodomy, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse. Let's see here. Starvation, child trafficking, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor still on the premises with full access to the boys up on multiple substantiated claims, again by the Missouri Department of Social Services, of rape, sodomy, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy suing the president with frivolous lawsuits and fighting against, people, drag queens of all fucking things. They don't have an agenda, folks. They're just trying to live. Anyways, then to do his actual job and protect the people who are actually being abused right here at home. You got the governor hyped up on a power trip from hell as well. So please get me out of here. Share all those articles on all your social media. Don't forget to share and sign the change.org Shut Agape Boarding School Down petition. We got the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign as well, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, the Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet on shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollums back in 2002, the 10 plates, and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones, all right? This channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity and we talk about dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger, please, parental supervision is advised if they're watching this channel, all right? All right, trigger warning. We are about to descend into the mad ravings of a lunatic mind known as Dr. Matthew Israel. You're going to hear victim blaming, gaslighting, lies, batshit insane pseudoscience, enough ableism and bigotry to circle the world 3 times, and just know you're going to hear some shit, okay? So, be prepared for that, all right? Sorry. All right, let's move on. Finally, there are certain forms of self-abusive behaviors that cannot be easily prevented through the use of restraint. Gee, you think? Examples are biting a hole in one's cheek, rubbing one's skin against the inside of a cast for a broken arm or leg, refusing to swallow food, and constantly ruminating and projectile vomiting food against others. Oh, Jesus Christ. And he's telling you all of this is willful behavior that we're choosing to do. It's not how it works, folks. Let me go back on a subject I have gone over many times. Most self-abusive behaviors, in particular with autistics, happen during meltdown. We don't have control during meltdown. This is not willful behavior that we consciously chose to engage in because spoiled toddler wants attention. No. These are unwillful, involuntary behaviors that burst out of us. All sense of logic and reasoning, any idea of the concept of choosing has gone the way of the dodo by the time meltdown happens. Okay? In meltdown, I am pulling from both person who has worked in this field and autistic myself. You're going to see head banging. You are going to see hitting of ourselves, biting of ourselves, cuts, marks, bruises, punching of ourselves in the head repeatedly. I've done it. I've done it relatively recently too. Like the most last was about a year ago. Yeah. The biting a hole in one's cheek, now that may not come particularly from meltdown. There are certain self-abusive behaviors that are done in response to being over-sensory stimulated. When our sensory has been overwhelmed to the point that it becomes unbearably painful. So we resort to even causing ourselves a horrible injury in order to be able to stop that overwhelming feeling. And if to give you a kind of an indicator of what that feels like, it's like imagine being in the worst pain all over your body while also feeling like the walls are closing in an extreme case of claustrophobia. On top of the claustrophobia, you also feel like you're being rubbed raw to the point of bleeding with sandpaper all over your body. You itch, you hurt, you have an extreme pain in your chest, maybe an arm goes numb. That's just from my personal experience. There are others who experience other types of things going on during sensory overload. Rubbing one's skin against inside of a cast for a broken arm or leg can also be explained very logically. Matter of fact, folks, there are some things that we engage in that are completely reasonable when you actually think about it for 2 seconds. We all know for a fact that a person who has a cast, the skin underneath will still itch on occasion. Now imagine you're an autistic who's hypersensory already, and you have an unbearable itch, but it is covered by a cast and you cannot reach it with your other hand to scratch it. Are you going to engage in something to relieve the itch, even if it might perhaps cause more damage? Yes, you are. Okay? Because it itches. Itching, if prolonged, can come to the point to where it literally feels painful. Okay? Don't even discuss with me what kind of personal hell I went through when I had chicken pox, folks. When I was a kid. Refusing to swallow food. Gee, doctor, I wonder why they would refuse to swallow food. Could it be because you made them throw away all the appetizing, healthy stuff and instead are trying to make them to eat, powder-flavored mash? Possibly, right? There are some foods that are so disgusting to us autistics that to swallow it will make us absolutely, completely, and utterly physically ill. I'm going to give you an example after I read the rest of this sentence. And constantly remitting and projectile vomiting of food against others. First of all, nobody can fucking puke on cue, okay? At least not projectile. Now, granted, things like bulimia exist and you can trigger it, but that's not projectile vomiting, folks. I'm going to take you an instant and rewind it back to about circa early 90s when I was a real young kid. And I don't like milk chocolate. And when I say I don't like milk chocolate, I mean I very violently don't like milk chocolate. Just the smell makes me feel sick. My aunt, when I was a kid, not knowing better, forced me to eat chocolate pudding. I then became so ill that, yes, I projectile vomited all over her wall, all over the floor, and some of it even got on the window. My sensory issues with milk chocolate are bad enough that it will, if forced to eat it, cause me to be that kind of violently ill. Dr. Matthew Israel here is trying to insinuate that I actually did that on purpose because I was having a willful behavior. If it sounds stupid, that's because it is, folks. That's because it is. People like this don't want to take into consideration our very real sensory needs and how the sensory of the world around us, with us being hypersensory sensitive, how it affects us on the day-to-day. No, we have to fake like nothing's going on and pretend to be neurotypical instead of mentioning, hey, I need to leave now. Now, some of us will force ourselves to mask and mask and mask and take it 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 until we can't. And then you get a meltdown from hell from sensory overload. And then you're going to say, but look at how they're having that unlogical behavior. Right? You force us to do things that literally make us feel violently ill or in an immense amount of pain. And then we grin and bear it until we can't no more. And then you are shocked and horrified when we have a meltdown. Come on now. Come on. This is why you can't sit there and pretend to know that you know what's causing these behaviors. Because you're never going to get anywhere. The behaviors will just continue because you assume you know everything and you're treating a problem that we probably don't even have, while leaving the real problem left undealt with. And now you got resentment and trauma piled on top of it. Okay? And by the way, folks, if you think these folks don't know that we'd rather starve and die than to eat that mash and cause ourselves such horrific physical pain, we will. Dr. Matthew Israel and those people there know it. Jennifer Masumba written in her log how she once overheard staff talking about how they wanted to starve the person into compliance because they know they're not going to eat that. They know it's going to cause sensory hell. They just don't care. They use it as a gotcha to get away with it and not be prosecuted by the government. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And this is my kitty. He says hi. He says hi to the peoples. You. You is my kitty. He says hi. He's a good boy. This is my emotional support animal, folks. This one here has caused me to stop right before meltdown just by simply sitting in the chair next to mine over there and starting to purr than I care to mention. Yeah, right, Mr. Mean. You're a good support kid. You're a good boy. All right, we're going to go ahead and close out on this video. But what are we wrapping up from this before we move into mechanical restraint and more of his stupid? We are learning once again that these idiots are still thinking that all these things are willful behavior, when a matter of fact they are not. In fact, it can be explained medically within the medical model. We don't even like the medical model, I might add, for obvious fucking reasons, which I've gone over many times on this channel, but can be explained. Over sensory and stimulation exposure, constant bullshit from people like the JRC with their bizarre behavioral rehearsal lessons, and surprise, the behavior happened out. But yeah, then they'll tell you, no, we simulated that so that they'd have the behavior so we can teach it was wrong. And you wonder why these kids are considered so bad? Think on it. And also, before you get on your school's side, when I say, but they got in a violent fight and they need to be in another school, realize this. Bar none, the kids who get targeted the most for bullying and for assault are the neurodiverse kids. The ADHDers, the autistics, all of us. And when we finally get up to stand up for ourselves and finish the fucking fight, then the blame all gets put on us. Even if we've gone to the teacher to have mentioned bullying numerous times beforehand. So always keep that in mind, folks. This is why context is important. All right, let's close out. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit those comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye. And sorry, folks. Look at my ugly bug.